Now, a couple of weeks ago, the Super Bowl showed the trailer of the Smurfs, the new carnation from Paramount. But the only problem is, everybody hated it. Like when the trailer ended, everybody just made videos about it and talking about it, commenting on Twitter or whatever platform you go. Everybody wanted to say their own thing. The only problem is everybody just basically repeating the same thing. Nothing that original, but no one really points out probably the most important thing of all, why this Bessie Smurf became sort of cringy, out of date, has no idea what to do if you have to compare to the trolls now worse, because the trolls is everything like the Smurfs is, but the only problem is the trolls actually took their time and put thought what they trying to do, what to make the trolls work, and the Smurfs sort of fail. To be important, I have to mention one specific thing: the Smurfs always been out of touch, always been no idea what we're doing, because it always was sort of a cash cow. We just doing the animation just because we kind of have to remind people, oh yeah, we have the Smurfs, buy our merch, because at the very end the Smurfs just sell merch. They do not really care about the entertainment specifically in animation or movies. It's just we have to make one because we have to sell merch. Keep reminding you, oh, remember we have the Smurfs, how cute and adorable it is. Even that the common where it belongs has more darker tones, more interesting sort of storytelling. Even if it's not perfect, at least has the nerve to make it interesting. But the only problem is every time they attempted to adapt it, it just is a sellout or has no idea what it's doing, or trying to appeal the young demographic who are basically do not care about the Smurfs, because the Smurfs are sort of a sellout, even attempted to make them fun and interesting. And believe me, if you've seen the new series of Paramount from Nickelodeon from the Smurfs, you can tell they have no idea what they're doing. Especially, I made like a review about them the first couple of episodes, just taking my opinion about it. You just talked about it, but everybody sort of agreed what I said to that specific review of the show. It was a sellout show. Not just that, everything else. Ironically, Trolls was the same thing, but yet Trolls know how to handle the material. But even that, the Trolls would never wear pop culture icons like the Smurfs. They always was the shadow of the Smurfs. That's why it sort of made it sort of interesting when DreamWorks bought the rights of the Trolls. It made something unique, fun, and different, and yet very similar to the original, but have a soul. And I think that's just very interesting. In fact, every time you talk about the Smurfs, there's sometimes once along well is sort of a comparison from the Trolls. Now, ironically, they stopped doing that because no one really cares about the Smurfs, or maybe they realize the Smurfs are just sort of sellouts. Before I continue on this conversation, my name is Rachel. I like to talk about animation, not just animation, the reviews, first impressions, cartoon theories, and sometimes, if I have some spare time, cartoon breaking news. Of course, you like how it's going, like to help my channel, put a like, comment, and subscribe. That's the only thing you need to do. If not, that's fine. But you do, thank you. Because of you, I'm getting close to my main goal of 2,000 subscribers. And yes, I'm getting close every single day because of people like you. People put like, comment, and share. Thank you. Now they keep starting why the Smurfs is sort of out of date, but they still love the Trolls. Let's continue the conversation, shall we? You know, the most ironic thing about the Smurfs is that the show has actually interesting stuff to use, but they choose not to. And something that I sort of noticed over the years, every time I see a sort of a new anime series or a new movie, they chose to ignore everything else, even that they have very big set lore. Like they're from, I think, the time period 1960s where chivalry and knight exist in France. They can actually use that in the movies. They can still use live action elements, but they choose not to. Even that, all the fans, all the people who at least hate the Smurf, easily point that out. The best part of the Smurfs is the beginning. That sort of really well adapted scenario of their own world, but every time they do, they run away from it. They just choose to ignore it. To compare to the trolls, once again, that they do have a little bit of lore, but they chose not to use the lore. They just choose to have fun till they realize, wait a minute, at least DreamWorks version, that they decide to give it lore, to give it a personality. Even that, the original trolls attempted to do that a couple of times. They have about three animated projects, and all of them were semi-successful. One of them you probably recognize, or two, but the rest of them you just sort of, I don't remember they actually made. Only if you grew up in that specific time period, you maybe remembered. But the rest of the animated series don't really care about. Only the movies from the DreamWorks or the TV series on the DreamWorks. Why? It's because the lore is fun. The characters are fun. Even that sometimes they do try a little too hard to push a kind of like a lesson now words, especially the movie, especially the second one. But even that is still kind of fun, especially the whole series is like karaoke, but yet that's not the sort of focus. They focus of what can make this interesting and fun but not be annoying. And you know what? They nail it almost, you could say 75% of the time. They still have their moments of being too kitty-fied now words, but this is the reason why they have a very unique fan base who likes to talk, draw, ship, all the shebang of a fandom from Ashley Trolls to compare the Smurfs. The Smurfs have the fans, but the only thing to do, they just draw, and that's it. Even that, they have one specific lore the Smurf have is sort of interesting that I'm surprised they never used. Is that the zombie apocalypse sort of arc that one of the Smurf got affected about something and turned purple and is trying to destroy everything in the Smurf village, and they never really use that. Even that, the apocalyptic zombie sort of storytelling is very tame. It's that you need to be creative to use it, and that's the problem. Sony and Paramount are creative but useless. They don't want to use it. They don't know how to use it. They're so scared of scaring little kids. They're afraid to do anything. They're so numb. It just sort of shocking how it works. And I think that's the best way to describe it, because the Smurf have been sort of slouch of no creativity until Sony last filmed the animated movie that was surprisingly good, but not amazing. It has its own issues. You have the writing being sort of kiddish-ish because they think, oh, this meant for little kids. In a way, yes and no. A good animated project, a good family animated project, is that you should never talk down to little kids. Treat them as equals. If you want to talk about anything kind of edgy, anything like that, you just use metaphors and just give them a happy ending. Because at the very end, little kids can take anything. It's just you have to be sort of kind of created the imagination of the metaphor you want to use, and that's it. That's all you need to do. On top of this, some of the jokes of the Smurfs, you can actually be creative. The animated movie proves it. In fact, if you watch the TV series nowadays from Nickelodeon, that show feels boring, uninspired. They like, oh, what little kids like? They like laser beams. Oh, what little kids like? Oh, they like robots or cyborgs, or better yet, explosions and make a Smurf explode but not explode. But that's the problem. They go by the most light feather, not expire, or something they saw very pop culture iconic like Avengers or Justice League. They make their own version, but the only problem is it feels out of place because the Smurfs never been sort of like pop culture reference machines. They never done that, because how the world is created is just a way that is only fits back in the 1700s, or even later than that, where knights and kings and dragons exist. They have to lean on a more magic lore. The only lore they can actually go close to is something like Dungeons and Dragons or Lord of the Rings or whatever fantasy you can think of to really make it work. But every time they use something like machines or it's kind of like a car but not really a car, doesn't really work. It feels they're trying so hard but never appreciating what they actually have, making it more difficult to actually care about, because at the very end they're trying to be popular. What is the kids like today kind of mentality to compare to the trolls? They'll try to be that. They do sometimes, but they do it in a very unique but yet makes sense in the Trolls universe of DreamWorks. Like, they use K-pop, and that makes sense in the universe of Trolls of DreamWorks, because every single troll has his own unique voice, a unique song. Country, classical music, R&B, rap. They use every little thing to describe the Smurf and genre. If they want to use K-pop, it actually makes sense. It actually makes someone to use it in that world. Or you want to either producer take over the whole Trolls universe, that makes completely sense. If you want to make a theme about superheroes, that makes sense, because music reflects whatever going on in pop culture. That just works. You don't question it, you don't really cringe about it, only if they try too hard, but yet it just makes sense. Put it this way, there is an episode of the original Netflix version of the Trolls. They find a book, says do not open. It has magic abilities, and they don't listen. They open it, weird stuff happens, do one music, and come out. And yet it makes completely sense now words. And Smurfs, they cannot do it. Smurfs, they want to do something else but not use magic. They just avoid it. If they do, they use it sort of a plot convenient, and that's it. It's almost afraid to use the genre they into. They try to use it, but the only thing they use is the isekai genre. And that's it. That's the only thing they know what to do. And they just afraid to do anything unique. Even that they have good actors or good performances, they usually just waste of time. And that is just sad and disappointing, because the Smurfs does have potential. You can actually create a lot of good comedy, a lot of good concepts, or use the basic world aspect of it, but they don't. They just want to be pop culture, but the ironic thing is they're not pop culture. They're just classical sort of myth and legend creatures. And back in 1960s or 70s, you could tell, you knew what I'm talking about here, but that's just sort of sad. In fact, you're wondering why? It's because the very end, they just choose to not to do anything. They just choose do the basic thing to grab the basic kid. But the ironic thing is, if they stick to the basics, stick to what it works, truly, you still get little kids to see the world of Smurfs. They actually can make it work. But no, that's just not to. To compare to, ironically, the Trolls, that you cannot even compare anymore, because the Trolls becomes their own unique thing. They reinvent itself so well that every time they try to remake it, they can't. They're stuck to that specific version because everybody loves it. Even that sometimes they have a misfire, but yet you still enjoy it. This is the reason why you have a very unique fan base of the Trolls to compare the Smurfs, that people don't actually want it. Even that the other shows like the adult anime series constantly make fun of the Smurfs. They dialogue, how they say, like there is an episode of Family Guy and another episode of Rick and Morty pointing the flaws of the Smurf, why it's so annoying and tiring. They are not wrong. That's the shocking part. Even Endless Sanders made a joke about the Smurfs, how much he hates the Smurfs. That's how much they actually fallen outwards. But once again, that's sort of what happens if you are not that creative compared to the trolls, ironically. But other than that, what do you think? What do you feel? Tell me down below. Let me know. I got nothing else to say. Just thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and have a wonderful day. Bye.